Scoop, what's a time when filmmaking felt less like an art and more like an episode of Survivor? Just fighting for your life on set out there.
I think Survivor is a great word, especially when you're shooting on film. So what you'll be seeing tonight is an excerpt of a feature film I'm currently in the process of filming entitled Poet in a Modern World. It's all shot on 16mm film. How many of you know what 16mm film is? Okay. I have some props here. So for those of you that didn't raise your hand, 16mm film comes in these spools. You can get it in 400 feet or you can get it in 100 feet. And 16mm film is half of 35mm film, which is the standard for shooting on film. Has been the standard for productions for a very long time. 16mm film is half the size, like I said, which means that productions are cheaper. And so a lot of low-budget films in the 20th century were shot on 16mm film. And just last year, 16mm film celebrated its 100-year anniversary. So yes, Kodak in the United States still makes film. And they're the only film manufacturer, yes, please can hold that. They're the only film manufacturer in the United States right now. 16mm film looks like this. They come in daylight spools like this, and daylight spools are these spools that have these black walls that you can load it in daylight. But if you're loading it on a regular spool, you have to have one of these. Does anyone know what this is? Light bag. Yeah. So essentially, if you have to load a film magazine to put in your motion picture camera, you have to put your hands into this bag, and you cannot see anything that you're doing whatsoever. So you deliberately blind yourself. So you're having to feel the film with your hands, and you have to know where exactly the spool fits onto the spool holder of the magazine. So I'm making this project on film, and we began the proof of concept in 2021. We began filming. And we filmed on Main Street on one of these old homes. My friend was a Bradley University student at the time. He was the gaffer and grip on our film. And he was renting a room in one of these homes, so we decided to film in this upper floor in this old 1930s home. And it had a gable door. It was a very beautiful, peculiar atmosphere. So I wanted to film one of the scenes here. And production began. I had never shot a project in 16mm film before this proof of concept. So, who knew? I had no idea what I was getting myself into. We filmed a couple of scenes. I go to change the magazine and unload, put my hands in the bag, the film magazine in the bag, and I'm unloading, and there's this thing called a core adapter. So a spool has an opening like this, and there's an adapter piece that fits inside that fits on the magazine, and you have to push that out after you take the spool off the magazine. Otherwise, you send that to the film lab. That belongs on the magazine. So you have to exert a lot of force on that adapter, and I push that out, and I push the plastic core holder that was holding all of the film out along with it. And what happened with the film? It coned. It coned on the inside. Exactly. So have you ever made ribbons and twisted ribbons before? So and you let go and the coil is furled. Well, it unfurled, and we had production, and there were still scenes to film, and my hands were trapped in this bag. I can't rip my hands out of the sleeves because light will leak in. So I spent an hour and a half slowly winding the film back onto the spool. And my back was cloaked with perspiration, and I was questioned by crew members, what's going on? Is everything okay? So I alerted my gaffer and grip what happened. And he, fortunately, because we were filming in his apartment, had another light bag. So what we ended up doing was running up to this room, and I had my hand in this light bag the whole time, and we go into this room, and we have to seal all of the cracks cracks and crevices with gaffer's tape because we couldn't have light leaking in. So we spent about half an hour sealing this entire room with gaffer's tape.
Wow.
And we made this transfer from one light bag to another, so I can use that light bag to load the film magazines. And we left the film, unfurled film, in that light bag. And I was so nervous afterwards. Eventually we were able to finish production that day, by the grace of God. And I alerted the lab about what happened, and they said, "Oh, that happens all the time. We accept unraveled film." And of course, I sent all my film to the oldest running laboratory in the United States called Cinelab in Boston, Massachusetts, and they've done a fantastic job with transferring film to digital, which is what you'll see tonight. So we had a success. I received the film back, and there was only about 50 foot of the film grazed because my fingers, film is very fragile, so any pressure, your fingernails scraping up against it will create light scratches and boot marks. Anyhow, so we only had 50 feet compromised. There was one shot we couldn't use, but it made the film better, and I think connecting it to what we were talking, you two have been mentioning earlier about the unknown. There's so much we cannot see, and this is a perfect metaphor for filmmaking. There's so much you cannot see, but you have to have faith. You have to have faith in what you're doing, and you cannot rely on your own strength. And everything that happens while you're making a film, whether it's the mistakes, the failures, that is contributing to the story. Because there's two stories that are being told. The story that you're making, and the story of you making the film. And if we want to have films that are transformative for people, the filmmaker has to be transformed. And you have to humble yourself. You have to have faith. So that's my story.